All right, guys, welcome to a new video. So today, basically, what we're gonna do is go over some CCNA material. Personally, I'm gonna go over port security, and I'm gonna try to explain you guys what port security is, and try to create a little lab to go over the details of port security. And then Fetty and my friend here, Adam, are going to just jump in and try to help out, and maybe if they want to talk about something else related to CCNA, then they're more than welcome. All right, so I'm going to share my screen with you guys. Let me see, let me know if you can see it. Can you guys see it?
Yeah, we can see it. Perfect. Yeah.
All right, cool. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do a little small lab. So I'm just gonna put here a few computers, and then I'm gonna do 2 switches. Where are the switches? 2960s, right? Because those are the most common ones, besides the 3560s, right? The multi-layer switches.
Yep.
Now, do you guys know, like, what can you guys tell me about port security while I start creating this lab?
All right. Adam, do you want to go?
So I go into the office and I have John 2 cubicles down from me, and he's an accountant. And he just put in a ticket, and he's like, "Hey Adam, my computer's not getting any internet. What's going on?" And I'm like, "Okay, John, let me come and take a look." And I noticed that John has a little like 4-port switch that he bought from Best Buy on his desk. And I'm like, "Where'd you get that, John?" He's like, "Oh, I got it from Best Buy." I'm like, "Okay, so what happened was you plugged in that little 4-port switch into the wall, and then all of a sudden, the switch that now detects that switch goes to the spanning tree protocol, and because our switches are set up to not accept another switch because it's on an access port, and we put on the blocking port, so or the BPDU guard, now it's just going to block that switch out, and now the port is going to go into a shutdown mode probably. So now even if you unplug that switch from John's cubicle and plug the computer back in, well, now he still doesn't have any connection because that port is still shut down. So John, you fucked up. Because you can't just
Come on, John.
You can't just be plugging
Honestly.
switches into any Ethernet port around the building.
Right. Fetty, what can you tell me about port security that comes to mind?
Okay. So just like what Adam said, when I was in a network scenario and I was thinking about it, some guy just brought a switch. Like, it was useless. Like, why you bring Best Buy bought switch? Cisco switches are managed switches. These are unmanaged. You don't want to mix things up. And he just tried to plug it in. And when he tried to plug it in, it just went down. And then he was saying, I cannot have any access. My switch does not have no access to the internet whatsoever. So then, I have to go into the switch and figure out why. And then as soon as I see in the switch, I just see a log that's saying, well, this interface is down. And I checked the interface. I went into it, show interface status. And what I seen from there said error disabled. I'm like, are you serious, my guy? Like, you did this? The problem is that it was in a shutdown mode because port security was configured in shutdown when it came to this situation. And that's one of the modes I could tell you. So what ends up happening is when he plugged it in, it just went down. It's not accepting whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's another 2 modes as well too. There's restrict and protect. Well, with protect, even if he plugged it in, he has no access to internet anyways, but the port will not go down. And I won't even know what's going on, like, based on that, unless I go into seeing the port security configurations to see that it's in a protected mode, and that's the reason why he cannot access the port. Now, with restrict, what is going to happen in that case is it's going to give me a violation counter. Basically, every time he's plugged into it, it's going to keep rising and keep going up because he didn't plug it out yet, and that's telling me that something is wrong. So I have to tell him, relax, just plug it out. You're not supposed to do that. And by the way, if you don't want anybody else to know and you want it to be between us, why don't you take me out for lunch and we eat some lunch and we enjoy a good time?
Okay, I like that. I like that. Yeah. So like basically here,
Yeah.
what I'm gonna do is just I'm gonna go over the process of configuring port security, right? So it's very simple. So here I have two client computers connected to the switch, right? And now when we think about port security, we automatically think of like, protecting the network from a layer 2 perspective, right? Because what port security does is just compares a list of MAC addresses that are stable, and whatever is allowed in the network, it would accept that MAC address, and then it would allow it to communicate in the network. But if it's not allowed, then it would either shut down the port, um, it will send notifications to the SIG log, right? Where you can see the managers can actually tell like who's trying to access the network. And there was another mode. So it's restrict, it's shut down, right? And what was the other one?
Protect.
Protect, right? So it just depends on what the manager wants you to do. In this case, what we're gonna do, we're just gonna go over the shutdown, and then maybe I could talk about the protect mode and the other mode too. All right, so basically here on the switch, so here we have Greg joining. So hey Greg, welcome to the chat, man. I'm recording, so I'm in the middle. I just started configuring port security. Okay. All right. So here what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to enable, right? Of course, and then config mode, and then we're gonna. The thing about in order to configure port security, we know that switches out of the box, they're configured with DTP, right? And if we have the ports in DTP, port security is not gonna work, and we're gonna see that right now. So we're gonna select the ports that we want to configure for port security, and then we do have fast Ethernet 1 and 2, so we can do actually like range. And then to enable port security, you just do switch port security, right? And as you can see, we see an error, right?
Bruno,
Mm-hmm.
we
Go
can't
ahead.
see the config that you're doing unless you're doing one because
Yeah.
you're probably only
Oh, you
sharing.
cannot?
No,
You can't see it.
you have to share your entire desktop. It can't just be
Oh,
Yeah.
the screen. Yeah.
I'm literally imagining everything he's saying because
I am
can't see
too. Yeah,
the
but I
picture.
figured he was like thinking like, oh, we're looking at it because we're not saying anything or
okay. No, hold on.
Right.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, I know. That's good for looking out for mentioning that actually.
No, for sure. So yeah, you have to go back in and then do share screen. And then
And you have
from
to
there,
hit the
it'll let you
whole
do the
desktop.
actual window. Yeah, it'll let you do the whole window, not just like,
I remembered our first call too. I made the same mistake, man.
yeah, it happens.
you guys don't say anything. I'm just here talking, thinking you guys can see everything.
Nah, man.
Hold on. You share. Okay, so
If anything, just stop sharing the screen altogether and then go back in. And there you go. Yeah, look
okay,
at my little
so
stunner shades. My little
Yeah, I see that. That's fire,
hey
man.
man. Yeah, man. Got the hair up, the headphones on.
yeah, at first I was
Looking
like, who's this guy joining?
It's your boy with the glasses on, man. I look like
All right,
Clark
can
Kent.
you see now the command line?
Yeah, now
Yeah,
we
yeah,
can see it. Now we're good.
Okay, perfect. That's good. So where was I at? Okay, yeah, so we cannot configure port security because again that it's they're dynamic right now. Okay,
Mhm.
so what we have to do now is switch port mode access, right? And now we'll be able to configure port security.
Boom.
See, now it's not giving us an error, right? So now once we're here, what we do is we do switch port security again. And then how many MAC addresses? Okay, so Fetty or Greg, what's the default for port security?
MAC addresses, 1.
Like
Yeah.
what default configuration? Like, like if someone is trying to get into the network, with a different MAC address? What happens?
It's
Well,
going to
that
shut
depends on
down.
that depends on, oh, you mean like yeah, exactly. The default violation is what you're referring to?
Right, right.
Yes.
So what's the
Yeah, so that's
default
gonna be
violation?
the default. Fetty said it, it's gonna be shut down. So what's gonna happen is let's say you have one MAC address maximum on there, and then someone else tries to go in and use that port, it's gonna put the port in error disable mode. So you have to go in and shut down the port and then reinitialize the port.
Hmm. So in this case, we don't do maximum. We just do MAC address because we want to specify what's the MAC address that we want to allow in the network,
Mhm.
right? So for that, we go here on PC and find out what the MAC address. Now, this is not something that you may want to do on a real environment with more than 100 computers, or not even more
Yeah.
than even 5 computers, because you don't want to go on each device and see what the MAC address is for each device,
Right.
right?
If
This
anything, you
is,
could just do sticky.
and
So,
if anything, you can do a sticky. But in this case, I
Right.
just want to do the very basics. So what we're
right.
gonna do is we're gonna go look at the MAC address, and it's this one. Okay, so we're gonna copy that MAC address. Now, by the way, you can also grab it from the command prompt,
Hmm.
right? You just do an IP config
Yep.
and /all, right?
Yeah, you have to space it.
Yeah, the
So
space.
space
Yeah.
ipconfig space /all. There
Yeah,
you
there
go.
we go.
Right, and
And then
that's where you
boom.
can see.
Hmm.
So now we just copy that here. If
Oh
it
no,
lets me.
paste.
There
There
we
you
go.
go. And then confirm it. So AJ,
Found duplicate. What does that mean?
is it AJ or AJ25? Yeah, either way, yeah, there. Oh, found duplicate. You know why I probably did that? Because this computer already sent frames to the switch. So it's
Hmm.
already recognizing it.
Yeah.
So that's probably
But
why I did that.
why do you say that it sent frames if we have not tried to ping or do anything?
Have you connected it? Or is it connected?
I have connected it. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
it's connected. Yeah.
So, I mean, from what I know, even if you don't route traffic, like, it's still going to try and connect, and
So what we can do
it's
now
still
is
going to try and do, yeah, go ahead.
we can do a show command, right? Just to make sure it has recognized that MAC address. So we do interface fast Ethernet 01, right? And yeah, you're right. So configure MAC addresses. Well, that's the MAC address that we have configured.
Mm-hmm.
Let me do this. Show security. So yeah, it has already learned that MAC address. But how though? Because it has not learned the MAC address from computer 2. You know.
That's a good point. Well, then again, you did do, oh no, never mind. Okay. Because I was going to say you did support security for that specific interface, but you actually did it for both.
I
Let's
did
see.
for both, but I
Yeah.
config
Yeah, I see it
found
now.
duplicate MAC address.
That's where you got that. You got that there. So I'm just trying to figure out why I
Mm-hmm.
gave you that, because I thought it was just because once you connect, then it's going to automatically try and send a frame out. It's just going to do that broadcast message.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
but I'm trying to look here because I'm looking at PC2, right? On Fast Ethernet 2, you said that that's what's connected and it
Mm-hmm.
hasn't registered anything. So let's see what that looks like and see if there's a MAC address on there. Show port security interface.
Greg, I think you're right though,
About what?
because you're right, because it doesn't have. Remember, like when it comes to computers trying to connect to a switch, and it has no IP address configured. It's the broadcast. It's trying to reach out to a DHCP server. So when it does that, it's gonna go to the switch. So the switch already learned
Well,
the
But
MAC address of.
even before doing that, what's gonna
there's no
actually
IP
happen is
address configured here
it's
anyway.
gonna, yeah, well, before that, it's gonna do a layer 2 request. So it's gonna do, for like the MAC address and that kind of stuff.
Right.
So that's what's gonna happen
Yeah,
first.
ARP. Yeah, yeah. The ARP
Yeah, I mean,
broadcast.
yeah, I'm thinking more so like when you first connect, because ARP it's gonna do ARP once you actually send a request out.
Right.
So when you try and do a ping, then it's gonna use ARP and then ICMP. It's going to go through that whole process, to get the information that it needs, for like the default gateway. And then it's going to be able to, do its magic and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I was just trying to understand why it said duplicate MAC address once he entered the MAC address, But my thought was because it automatically sent the frame out of that switch port, but it doesn't look like the MAC address on fast Ethernet 2
It
was
is weird because look, you know what I just did? I just enabled port security. Well, it was already enabled, but I specified it to just understand or recognize this MAC address. And this is the MAC address of this computer, but it has not given me that error, that same error.
it could just be
Okay,
it
then.
could just be a packet tracer thing too, you
Yeah,
It
know,
could
because that's the
be
thing.
yeah.
because it
That's
doesn't
the
really
thing
make
that's
sense, right?
right. That's the thing that's kind of unfortunate with packet tracer. Sometimes is
Mhm.
that, you know, you'll get certain errors that are really just Patrick because of packet tracer. It's not necessarily because of anything else.
Mhm.
I don't know if Adam has anything to say about that,
I think
or
you're
anything
right
we've been
about that.
talking about. Yeah, it has to be. I mean, that's just those are just the things that are just popping out and kind of just like making sense to me,
Mhm.
Right.
because it's like, why would it do something on one port and then not do the same thing on a different port? But either
Right.
way, you have it configured properly. You only want a
Mhm.
total of one MAC address. You want
Mhm.
the shutdown command. Um, the port,
And then
the ports are up. Okay. Um,
uh switchboard and
And I was gonna say
sometimes
you're right because now I just remembered when it comes to the computer, it was static configured, so it's not gonna give out the broadcast unless it was dynamically set on the computer.
right.
Yeah, yeah. So it has
Yep.
to be a
Total MAC,
packet
configured
tracer.
MAC, maximum MAC. You have all that. Port security is enabled. It's on a secure up because the connection is up and you have the ports active, and then the violation mode is shut down.
Mhm.
As far as like the aging time, so when it's 0 minutes, what that means is that it's going to always remember that MAC address unless you reset it, right?
Mhm.
But I believe the aging time that goes in with like the sticky command. So when you do like the sticky command, that's when it's going to have like the aging time. So you can specify if it's going to be 5 minutes, 10
Mhm.
minutes, et cetera, et cetera. Um,
All right,
yeah,
right now, what I want to do explain for the people that are just learning this topic, I just want to go over this little table because this show port security command, what it does is just shows you all the ports that I configured with port security. So when it says MAC secure addresses, it means that how many MAC addresses is gonna allowed in the network, right? And then here current address is the MAC addresses that the switch has learned, right? In this case, it has already learned the MAC addresses of these two computers.
mhm.
And then
And it's
the
specifying
security,
it for each port. Sorry, I just wanted to
mhm.
touch that. Yeah.
And then for the security violation, where of course there's no violations right now because nobody has attempt to get into the network with a different computer or with a different MAC address, right? And then the security action, it's the default shutdown as we explained earlier. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is let me put it in a little scenario, right? So usually when we wanna port security, it's a big thing, right? So say for example we're in a hotel, right? And Greg right here, my friend that loves cryptocurrencies, comes in with his laptop and he's like, "Yo, let me see if I can get into this network and try to steal some coins." All right.
I don't do
So
that, by the way. I thought to put that out there.
Yeah, you
I'm
make it seem
good,
like
but
a
I'm
bad
not that
guy,
good.
man.
Yeah, I'm
hey,
good, man, but I'm not that good. Not yet, you know.
all right. So say he comes with his laptop, and I don't know why I put a computer here because you're not gonna take your whole computer there, right?
Well, it's fine. Yeah, you could do a laptop or a
Yeah, I'm just trying to make it
PC.
as
You
realistic
have
as
to
possible.
make sure. Okay, never mind. You're good. There you go. You should have put
All
Greg
right.
Hacker computer.
All right, as you please.
Hey, well, chill, chill.
All
All right,
right.
that works.
So and then one of these computers in the front desk it broke, right? So they're submitting a ticket, and then they still have to have somebody send over to fix the problem, right? So now he goes ahead and he plugs in his computer in the switch because he got access somehow, right? And then he plugs it into the same port, right? So now here, what's supposed to happen is supposed to shut down automatically because the switch has already learned this MAC address, right? And by default, if it recognizes a different MAC address, then it's supposed to shut down the port, right?
hmm It
So is
looks
that
like it's
gonna?
going through spanning tree. Yeah, but either way, we
So,
should see a syslog message at least.
so
Or
what have we?
maybe not. You know what? I don't think we see a syslog
No.
Has
message
to
because
communicate.
No, I don't think that's why. I think the reason why we don't see a syslog message is because the only time that you see that message is when it comes to restrict. Because restrict, what
Exactly.
it does is it's going to actually give you that counter, and you're going to actually see it in there for the security violation counter. So what you can actually do is do show IP interface brief and see if the port actually got shut down.
Show IP interface brief.
Or
Right.
short interface status, I believe too, to show like the error disabled as well.
You know why I probably didn't do it yet? Do a ping command. Ping something.
Yeah.
Okay, so what
I
I'm
think it's
gonna
just
do
with
is
packet tracer though, right? When it comes to
No,
that.
I
Where
mean
you-
it's probably
it's
just
supposed to work.
yeah, it's
Um,
supposed to just work. So just do 192.168. Yeah, 100 or yeah, 01. There we go.
That's 100,
There
and
we
then we're
go.
just gonna do a default C class. Um,
No, that's fine like that.
oh, now
There it is.
now see,
There it is. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's probably
disabled.
why I didn't do it, because it didn't have an IP address. But okay, so then let's see what the message is. Line protocol and interface faster 01.
It's
Change
went to
state to
down.
down. Okay, so I
So
was wrong,
now,
obviously. It does give you that command on syslog, but okay, and you can see the security violation. Oh, thank you.
2-1. There we go. So we want to make sure that we do have these IP addresses enabled on the devices, right, for this to take effect. And obviously most of the time it's gonna be there, because once you connect to the network, say that this hotel, you'll have the DHCP serving these IP addresses, right?
Yeah, because
Um,
DHCP is typically obviously automatically
mhm.
configured as being the default to try and get an IP address on any computer, really, unless you change it to static. So
Now what I want to show you guys too is the how you can see what's the port security configuration on the port, like the show command, right? So here you would go to let's go to interface 01. Okay, and now here you do have like all the listing of like what's enabled, right? So of course we do have port security enabled, then port security status, secure shutdown, right? And then violation mode shutdown, which is the default, right? And then you have the agent time, and the agent time basically what it is, it's how long do you want to remember this MAC address that's configured, right? And then secure static MAC address agent disabled. Yeah, we don't have that enabled right now. Then here maximum MAC addresses learned that you want the port to learn. Of course, only one, because that's the default. We have not touched that. Total MAC addresses, it has learned 1. Configure MAC addresses 1. And then we have no sticky. And then, the MAC address of the last computer and the violation count. Now, that's basically what I wanted to go over. Now that I'm here, let me just show you what would be like to configure if you wanna, do a sticky, or if you wanna increase the amount of MAC addresses that you want it to learn, right? So we're gonna go to port interface port +201, and
I would
then
say do the violation as well.
Right.
okay.
Yeah.
So now if you don't remember the what's next, like you can just do
Question mark.
the question mark, right? And then you can see a list of things that you can add to the command, right? So in this case, what we're looking for, okay, MAC address, right? So we want, let's say actually maximum, because we want more MAC addresses. So here you can actually specify the amount of MAC addresses, and it can be up to 132, right? So in this case, let's just put 3. All right, now the other thing is you can do a sticky, if I'm not mistaken, on this one. No, it's on MAC address. So what is the sticky command, Greg?
So basically with the sticky command, what happens is that any time that a frame is sent out or sent into that specific switch port on the switch, it's going to remember that MAC address on there. So how you have it set up, where it's able to remember 3, well, really 2, because already 1 is already configured on there. So all it's basically doing is just attaching that MAC address to that specific port, in the CAM table. Is really what sticky does.
Now you could either specify, right? But in this case, why would you want to specify? You wouldn't want to specify if you want to have it sticky, right? So you
Well,
will
I
just
mean,
leave it as sticky.
you're right. You would just leave it as sticky, but when you do the sticky command, it basically takes out all of that legwork that you would have to do if you
Mhm.
were to basically configure every single, statically configure every single MAC address on each specific port
Mhm.
for that switch. So that's why the sticky command just makes it a little bit easier. So you don't have to worry about, doing that. So it
Yeah, but I
looks
asked
like
because I see this here, but why would they give you that option? It
for
makes
the
no sense.
OUI, the OUI, the organizational unique identifier is what it's called. So you know how with the MAC address, the
Mhm.
first three, what
Bytes.
are they called? Not the first three bytes, but the first three groups of
Octets,
numbers. It
octets.
wouldn't be octets, would be for just IP.
Hexadecimal.
Yeah, so the first three hexadecimal pairs that you have is going to be the OUI, and then the other
Mhm.
set is going to be, um, for whatever,
The
for the,
universal, the UAA they call it, but yeah.
is that what it
Right.
is? Yeah, I know the
Oh,
first
okay.
part is the OUI. I didn't know what the other part was called, but yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So that's
The
what
first
that's for.
24 is the vendor ID, and then
Right,
basically the last 24 is like what the manufacturer adds with the MAC
Mhm.
address based off of
correct.
that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So this is the other command, violation. So again, you have protect, restrict, shut down the default, restrict. Now the difference between the restrict and protect is that with the protect, you do get the syslog, right? But
Other
it
way
does
around.
not shut down automatically. It's the other way
Restrict.
around.
Restrict
Okay.
gets the what's it called? The
Can
syslog message. Protect
Mhm.
doesn't.
Yeah,
Okay.
protect doesn't. I don't know if you guys heard. I don't know if Fetty explained it because my internet kind of like shut down on me.
Mhm.
You explained it.
Yeah, yeah, he did. I think
Okay.
you did. Yeah, he did go
I
over it
did.
earlier, but okay. So
Yeah.
in this
Yeah.
case, I mean, we can just do restrict. And the good thing about these other two, for the restrict, is that you will get the log message, right? So if you have the SNMP enabled, or most
Well,
of the
it's
time you
syslog.
do have that,
It would
you
be
will see it.
syslog. Yeah, if
The single.
syslog is automatically enabled, so you'll get it. You'll see it in the CLI.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Okay. So that's what I wanted to go over as far as port security. Now, the other thing that I wanted to go over, and for this one, I want you guys to help me out because I was kind of reviewing it, and that is DHCP Snooping and ARP Inspection, right? So basically, the whole concept for the two is like for DHCP Snooping, what you do is you, for example, here, and then maybe we can configure another day because it's going to take a little bit, but basically the whole concept of DHCP snooping is that you want to have this port right here configure as trusted, right? Because what hackers do is they do connect their computers to the switch, and then
Hmm.
they have this software that acts as a DHCP server, and they release these IP addresses to the clients, right? And then they could get information from the Mac app, from the switch, or even from the client computers, right? So when you have DHCP enabled, it's not been enabled, it will block, it will make it in such a way that it does not allow that hacker computer to release these IP addresses, right? And
Hmm.
then for ARP poison or ARP inspection,
Hmm.
they work hand in hand because with DHCP snooping, what it does, it creates a binding table of like MAC addresses with their IP address, right? And then what the ARP, it confirms that, because what the ARP is, what the ARP does, it matches the IP address to the MAC address, to the MAC addresses, right? So if these two do not match, then there's something going on. But if they do match, then okay, then we're gonna allow the computer to get the IP addresses, right?
Yeah, correct.
Um,
Right.
right, if I'm not mistaken.
I learned a little bit
Um,
about this in CCNP too. To talk about it a bit in
Do
one
they?
video I went to.
Yes. I'm so excited. I'm so excited to go over that then.
Yeah.
Because I did
And the
want.
old
I mean,
CCNA
don't get me
too.
wrong. I learned. Yeah, yeah. I no. It wasn't. It wasn't the new CCNA. I learned. I learned about DHCP Snooping and ARP Inspection from the CCNA, the new one.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, they went over it a little bit, and I know how to configure it and whatnot.
You
But
want to
if they go over
configure
in
it?
this, if they go over it in the CCNP, then that's dope. Nah, man, you got it. See what you
Let
got.
me see. All right. So what we need to do is first enable DHCP on this
It's only like 2
router.
commands that you have to do.
Yeah.
Right.
It's literally only 2 commands. Yeah.
Yeah, but I actually wanted to show like an example of like, like when it rejects, when you're trying to get that IP address, like the
Well,
IP address, the IP
the
settings.
the way you would do that is because basically what happens with DHCP snooping, by you setting that one port as being a trusted port and all the other ports is untrusted, then what that means is that only out of that port will it be able to basically receive those DHCP discover messages, right? So if it happens out
Mhm.
of any of the other ports that are connected on the access layer device, because that's typically where you would add, DHCP snooping and ARP inspection, then what happens is that it's gonna realize that those other ports aren't trusted. So any sort of request that comes out of those ports, or I guess into those ports, right? It's just gonna drop those packets, is really what it's gonna do.
100%. Yep. That's correct. You're right. Yep.
And then you do configure
You
the
both said
HTTP
everything. I don't have
snooping
anything
on the
else to add.
VLANs,
Yep.
right?
Yes.
With DHCP snooping, you have to set the ports. I believe the port that you want is a trusted port.
Yep.
I know it's like that for ARP inspection. I just have to go on Google and, oh, fuck, I'll just do it right now because that helps with troubleshooting anyways.
And
Like it's
then
something that we have to do.
enter.
I believe it is for the
So you would
for the trusted
configure
port.
it.
You have to put as a trust, and for the ones that are untrusted, you have to do a untrust, basically.
Dang, I'm gonna have to go back and look at DHCP snooping again because there was this thing. I don't know if you guys ever heard about it. It's something called option 82.
I
Yes.
Have you
think I remember.
have you? There's
Yeah, but
something with
I don't remember what it is.
that's why I need to go back and look um in a DHCP snooping because I remember that option 82 was something that was huge. Like it was something that you had to watch out for. So
Okay,
first
you
you have to
do
enable
put.
DHCP snooping. That was the thing. And this is the thing, same thing for ARP inspection. So you have to
Mhm.
enable it for a specific VLAN. And
Right.
then
So
inside of that
here,
VLAN, mhm,
so here I select the VLAN one because that's the native VLAN that's the only one that we have configured, right? And then you go to the interface where you want to enable it, and then you just put the IP DHCP snooping trust.
correct.
And I do have my commands here. And then there's another command that I learned today that it's called. So basically, you select all the rest of the interfaces. So in this case, it would be fast range fast. Well, in this case, how many ports do we have here?
Well, the thing is once you trust one port, you have to trust the ports that you want to be trusted. You don't have to put the other one as untrusted because it's only going to receive those requests from the trusted port. Is what's going to
Yeah,
happen.
no, but there's this command called IP DHCP snooping limit rate 100, and what it does
Mm,
is, have you heard of it? Basically, what
I
it
just
does
saw
is,
it.
it allows you to it allows these ports or like these client devices that are connected to these ports to request DHCP settings only like 100 times, right?
Right. Yeah. So what it does is it just configures the number of DHCP packets per second that an interface can
Mm-hmm.
receive.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. Yeah.
And then to double check that you do have DHCP snooping configured, there's a command called show IP DHCP
DHCP
snooping.
binding, I believe it is.
Yeah, snooping binding. But I know that here in Packet Tracer, you would not see because the version does not support it. So that's why
Well,
we don't see anything
it,
here.
it could also be because what you have to do is you have to have it basically get those DHCP requests and stuff. So you want to turn on that router, have it all configured, and then from there, you want to basically add another rogue router, right?
Hmm.
Into the Well, just a small network that you have, going
Well,
here.
but you could configure DHCP here.
Yeah, you want to just so you can see that it's going to actually, send those requests. But then to actually test it, what you have to
You
do is
want
you
a
have to
row.
add, yeah, you want to add a rogue router.
Yeah.
In this case, you don't want to obviously add a whole server
Right.
unless you
Right.
wanted to do that, just to test it. And then you can look at
Mhm.
the binding table again, and you can see what
No,
kind
but
of output it's going to give you.
I configured this before, and I know that it will still not show me the binding table with like
Really?
all the, yeah, it would not show me all the IP addresses.
When I did it, I don't remember checking the binding table, but I do remember, going to the computer and
Hmm.
just trying to get an IP address, and it wouldn't work because I disconnected the original router that had DHCP on it and just had the rogue one, because that
Hmm.
specific port was a trusted port that was supposed to be connected, took that one off and only had the other untrusted port, and it just wouldn't get an IP address until I plugged the other router, back in that
Hmm.
had the DHCP trusted on that port.
Right.
I remember
Uh,
testing on my old CCNA like exam like for the lab too, and it worked for me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
mm,
Yeah,
Like basically
nice.
what Greg said was correct. Like you'd have to have one of them as the trust one, and then there's another one that's a rogue, and you have to configure that as like an untrust port, and then for the other one as a trust port for the normal
mhm,
one.
Well, that's the port that you would connect it on, right? Exactly. And then you would
Yeah.
try and see if it's gonna, get that DHCP discover message and then send the offer, but it's just gonna drop it. Is really what the whole point of snooping is, to do. Because basically what it's called, DHCP snooping and ARP inspection, they're basically network security, just mitigation techniques, I guess, to stop man in the middle attacks
Yeah.
is really what they're for. So
mhm,
that's why you use those, and it's good to have obviously both of them configured because they pretty much go hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
mhm. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so yeah, I feel like that's gonna take some time, and I already got a message from Zoom saying that the 40 minutes have expired, but they're giving
Oh,
me a, yeah, so like I don't think it's recording. Is it still recording?
yep, it's still recording.
Okay.
Yeah, I see it.
Okay, yeah, I think it is. All right, so we're good. Do you guys want to go over this, or do you guys want to go over something else? I know Fetty, you wanted to go over like some other stuff, right?
Yeah, I was thinking about dynamic routing protocols. Right? You guys want to go
Say
over
that.
that?
Say
For
that again.
dynamic routing protocols like EIGRP, OSPF.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. What
Did you want
about
to do
them?
like
Um,
did you want to do some like lab examples based off of that or anything like that?
I do not recall how to configure EIGRP. I haven't
Mm-hmm.
done it in a very long time. Do any of you guys
Okay.
know how to do that?
Yeah, I don't remember either. I mean, I'm sure if we get on tomorrow, I'll come ready. Be like, oh, this is this, this is this, this is the feasible distance, this is the advertised distance, this is why this matters, this
I don't
matters.
like
You got to
EIGRP.
look at the
It's
bandwidth and the delay. Honestly, when I was learning
I don't
ERGRP,
like it.
I was thankful that I learned OSPF first and then EIGRP. But to be honest, I would much rather configure
Oh,
EIGRP for
it's
some reason than OSPF.
really?
Yeah.
I don't know why. Yeah, I don't know why. It's just something about EIGRP that
It's
it just
supposed to be simpler, right?
feels like a better protocol, but OSPF is still better. It's like one of those kinds of things.
The reason why EIGRP isn't streamlined is because, I mean, EIGRP, first of all, is Cisco proprietary. So if you have a mix
But
of
it's not Cisco proprietary anymore though. Like you can configure EIGRP on other devices besides Cisco
Yeah. They
devices.
licensed it.
isn't
Yeah.
it like just more difficult?
They kind of made it like an open standard is what they did, but it is obviously Cisco. That's how it was initially. They did this like a few years ago. I want to say maybe like 4 or 5 years ago. So it's not like,
Yeah.
they did it like, you know,
And the
last
same
week or something,
person
or
that
like
did
20 years
OSPF
ago.
did EIGRP as well too.
Yep. Same
Hmm.
exact person. And he
Yeah.
did it for Cisco.
Because I know
Yeah.
with EIGRP, all you do is you go into the global config and you just type in router EIGRP and then you put an autonomous system number. And then from
Correct.
there you can do the network and then the IP address of the network and then the
Mhm.
subnet mask. And then you kind of just set that up on the routers.
Which is a wild card too. I just want to add that.
Yeah.
It is a wild card. Yeah. So that's, I mean, that's essentially the whole config. But I mean, at the end of the day, you still want to be able to read the different routing tables, so that's why it's important for you to know the advertised distance and the feasible distance, which route's going to win,
It's
in those scenarios and stuff like that. So that's why I say like that stuff is, obviously number one important, and I don't remember it. So I just, with like 30 minutes of looking at some, some material, I'll be able to be like, oh, okay.
I remember on the CCNA exam, there was a question where it showed you a routing table and there was 3 routes on it. And one was, it was asking how a packet got to an IP address. And one of the routes actually didn't go there at all. So the only 2 options were EIGRP at 90 and then RIF at 120. And it was actually a trick question because the CIDR notation of the RIF route
I knew that's what I knew it.
And the EIGRP was a /26.
So the most specific route wins if they're under the same.
That's right.
It doesn't matter about the administrative distance. It's the most specific one.
Even though the EIGRP is
A lower AD.
90.
Yeah.
Right.
I felt pretty badass when I got that one.
Well, you don't know if you got it. You just know you passed the test.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I didn't understand that at first. That was so confusing to me because I'm like, why would you harp so much on the administrative distance? But then it's like, whenever there's, 2 or how do I say it? Basically, whenever an IP address is trying to go to another network, whatever IP address is, whatever
Same
IP address
access,
range is
pretty much.
right is basically configured on there. The most specific route's going to win. To basically send that information, regardless if, one routing protocol is going to be quicker than another one, which I think is obviously kind of off, but I understand it. It's one of those things that kind of really clicked because it was, annoying at first, especially getting those questions wrong and being like, what in the world is going on? And then, finally kind of learning that.
I remember in the past, I've gotten that wrong before.
Yeah, same.
For practicing,
Yeah, so now I'll never forget that. What are we looking at here, Bruno? What you got going on?
This is one of the labs that I had set up before. So
I don't see D for EIGRP. I see OSPF connected.
It's only OSPF.
Yeah, and local.
Yeah. So I'm trying to remember.
You learn a lot more EIGRP for CCNP too, man. I know OSPF, so yeah.
Nice.
Plus, in the real world, they do want you to know EIGRP for sure. Yeah, but I don't like it. I just hate it. I just hate it because of all the feasible distance and that you have to know all these numbers, and then there's like an algorithm that they use.
You don't really have to know
or like
all that stuff, though.
You don't really need to know, but for the CCNP, I think you do.
Well, there's different K values, there's different K values that you have to worry about. But I mean, really with the EIGRP, really the only thing you have to worry about is the bandwidth and the delay. That's it. And you're not going to be able to know the delay if you don't know how like the advertised distance and the feasible distance works in order to basically calculate that based off of whatever bandwidth is going on between those links. So it's just important to know that so that way you can look at it and be like, oh, okay, this is going to be the shortest path, to get from point A to point B, within the network.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just the difference between the router to neighboring router, and you add the advertised distance from that neighboring router that's talking to the other router, and that's
pretty much, yeah. So.
And then
I don't think I have configured EIGRP before. Have you guys?
Oh yeah.
There was something else that I really liked about EIGRP. I think it's just because it already has like that backup route. So if the route goes down, it actually does come up quicker than OSPF, if I'm not mistaken.
The feasible successor.
The feasible successor, yeah. So it's like the feasible successor is ready to go. Like he's like, look, coach, put me in the game. You know what I mean? Whereas with OSPF, whenever a network goes down, it's going to send it to the designated router and the backup designated router, so that way they can shut down that port and then figure all that stuff out. But EIGRP, it's like, all right, like we're ready, like we're not skipping a beat here because we already have that second route ready to go.
That's why it has a lower administrative distance, pretty much.
Okay, I didn't know
more
that,
trustworthy. Yeah, it's 90, and then for OSPF it's 110.
110.
All right, guys. I'm gonna stop recording, so maybe we can talk about what we can do next, like one of these days. But that was good stuff.
Yeah, I know for sure.
Mhm.
I'm down to
Um,
get on tomorrow, man. Like, look, I love labbing. I like it. If anything, what I'll do is I'll probably look at some EIGRP and then I'll do the config tomorrow.
Do it.